So now that the news of Julian Assange's arrest has been percolating for a day or so, I decided to do a little research into his history of his relationship with the Ecuadorian government to try and figure out why now all of a sudden they decided to reverse their policy and revoke his asylum. And after looking into it, it seems pretty clear to me that they just pretty much sold him out for money. And to understand why, you need to look back a few years to when Ecuador originally granted Julian Assange asylum. The president of Ecuador in those days was a fellow by the name of Rafael Correa, and Correa was not a typical Latin American president. He was pretty much along the lines of the Bolivarian socialists in Venezuela and Bolivia, so he was an ally of Hugo Chavez. And to that end, he was very much opposed to U.S. foreign policy, which of course in the past and still in the present, has tried to dislodge the Bolivarian government in Venezuela. And so Correa, seeing Assange as a thorn in the side of Washington, decided to grant him asylum and allow him to essentially conduct his business from the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Now, as much as it's nice to see a country small and weak as Ecuador have its own independent foreign policy and show that it's not going to exactly just be pushed around by bigger countries like the U.S., such cases of countries conducting an independent foreign policy tend to correlate fairly closely with rather more extreme experiments with socialism. And as both history and my economic training would suggest, such policies are not exactly conducive to economic prosperity. In short, it's difficult to conduct an independent foreign policy when your country can't stand on its own 2 feet. When it relies on help from the outside, you eventually end up having to compromise with them on international matters. So the Bolivarian president of Ecuador, Correa, was replaced in favor of a more center-left candidate, also from his party, a man by the name of Lenin Moreno. And just looking at a chart of the Ecuadorian economy over the last couple of years, you can see that things have not been going well. They've not been able to achieve anything above 1% growth in quite a few years. Thus, this led the new president of Ecuador, the more moderate, though still left of center, President Moreno, to go to the International Monetary Fund to seek a loan to try and revitalize his country's economy, which that in and of itself, frankly, is a bad idea, since getting more money and pumping more money into the economy isn't exactly going to improve their growth rates long term, but that's a side issue here. The real issue is that Moreno wanted that loan, and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is controlled largely by the United States. If you're not familiar with how the IMF works, the IMF is an organization of a bunch of member countries who lend each other money, and each country can vote on who gets loans based on the size of each country's economy. So the U.S., as the largest economy that is a member of the IMF, has the greatest sway over who gets what money, which is a nice way of saying that if you're going to be opposed to U.S. foreign policy, well, then you're not going to be getting any money from the IMF. The IMF is the carrot that's meant to lead you towards the right conclusions, towards agreeing with whatever Washington's policy happens to be on any given day. Now, while we have no official confirmation that the IMF approved this loan to Ecuador, which they did this past month in March, they approved a rather substantial loan to Ecuador. We have no official confirmation that this loan was approved on the basis that Assange would be handed over to the UK police, but there's certainly precedent for that being the case in the past, and it would be an awfully odd coincidence that Ecuador would be approved for such a generous loan around the same time that they happen to let Assange out. In the past, I believe the U.S. has openly blocked countries from getting loans at the IMF based on their politics, both domestic and international. Now, the domestic politics they're pretty open about because they're not going to loan money to a country who they think is going to squander it. And additionally, we have there's a piece in the Washington Post which essentially says that Ecuador's release of Assange is a way of them signaling that they want to have closer ties with the U.S., and that this is Ecuador's way of sort of coming back into the fold of the community of respectable nations. And the Washington Post, of course, is a mouthpiece pretty much for the State Department and the CIA. They take quote-unquote leaks that they put out pretty much as press releases. So if this is coming from the Washington Post, you can be certain that this is the establishment view, which is why I'm absolutely certain at this point that Assange was not handed over on principle, but rather sold out for the sake of this IMF loan. But I'm going to keep following the story and see what happens with Assange next. It's still interesting to see what's going to happen with that case in Sweden, whether they're going to reopen it or not, or when the U.S. is going to try and have him extradited and on exactly what charges. So I hope you stay tuned to this channel, and go ahead and give the video a like if you got anything of value out of this video, and I'd appreciate you clicking that subscribe button and clicking the bell so that you don't miss any of my future uploads, since I do upload every day, and I hope to see you folks back here tomorrow.